Hello, Virgo. There is a stillness settling in the space between you and someone from your past. Not the stillness of resolution, not yet. This is a charged stillness, heavy with the weight of a truth that has finally, unavoidably, landed in a place it was once denied. The truth of your value, the truth of your absence, the truth of what was lost, not because of circumstance or timing or incompatibility, but because of a choice they made. And that choice, once defended with logic, once justified with excuses, once buried beneath layers of pride and self-protection, has now surfaced. It sits in their chest like a stone that cannot be swallowed and cannot be expelled. It is not your imagination. It is not wishful thinking dressed in spiritual language. It is the natural, inevitable consequence of energy seeking its balance. When someone turns away from genuine connection, when they close a door that should have remained open, they do not simply walk away unscathed. They carry the weight of the turning, and that weight over time becomes unbearable. Let us speak plainly about what is unfolding in this present moment. There is a person who once held the power to choose you. They stood at a crossroads where one path led toward the vulnerability of a real, committed connection, and the other led toward the familiar safety of distance, of control, of a narrative where they were the one who decided, the one who left, the one who remained untouched by the risk of love. They chose the familiar path. They walked through the door, perhaps with certainty, perhaps with relief, perhaps with the quiet assurance that something better awaited them on the other side. They told themselves the story they needed to believe, that you were not the right fit, that the timing was off, that they were protecting themselves or protecting you, that there would be other opportunities, other people, other chances to feel what they chose not to feel with you. But certainty built on the dismissal of true value does not last. Relief born of avoiding vulnerability becomes, with time, a hollow echo. And the better things they imagined have a way of revealing themselves as pale imitations when contrasted with the genuine connection that was left behind. What you are sensing now is the echo of their realization. It is the sound of their certainty cracking. It is the pressure of a door they closed, now pressing against their back from the other side, demanding to be reopened. They are living with the quiet, persistent knowledge that they made a mistake, not the small kind, the kind that can be shrugged off or rationalized away, the deep kind, the kind that seeps into the cracks of their daily life, coloring their present moments with the ghost of a choice that cannot be unmade. This is not about you waiting for them. This is about them finally, for perhaps the first time, facing the full weight of what they walked away from. This creates a distinct and powerful probability in your energetic field. The probability of being the subject of someone's profound, unspoken, and growing regret. Not the regret of a passing thought on a lonely night, but the deep, structural regret that changes how a person sees themselves. They are wrestling with the memory of you, not with the soft nostalgia of a fond memory, but with the sharp, unforgiving clarity of hindsight. They are seeing, perhaps for the first time, what they actually walked away from. And the image is not flattering to their own carefully constructed narrative. They see your patience. They see your consistency. They see the depth of what you offered, the safety you represented, the future that was possible. And they see in the mirror of their own present reality, the absence of those things. They see the choices they have made since, the connections that lacked your depth, the people who did not see them the way you did, the loneliness that crept in when the relief of leaving faded and left only the quiet question, what if? This regret is not a request for your attention. It is not a plea disguised as silence. It is a private, internal reckoning happening in their own soul. And its loudest echo reaches you not as a message, not as a phone call or a text, but as a shift in the atmosphere, a sudden memory that arises unbidden in the middle of a mundane moment. A dream where they appear not as the villain of your story, but as a figure of quiet, unresolved tension standing at a door they cannot seem to open. A feeling that something that was left unfinished is now on their end being revisited with new eyes, new understanding, new regret. This is the texture of the shift. It is subtle, but it is real. And you have felt it, haven't you? That quiet knowing that something has changed in the space between you, even without words, even without contact. That sense that the energy of that old connection is no longer static, no longer frozen in the moment of ending. It is moving, it is shifting, and it is moving toward the inevitable resolution that comes when one person finally, fully understands what they lost. Does this resonate with what you have been sensing? That subtle but undeniable shift in the energetic landscape of a connection you thought was finished, this is the silence before the reckoning. The phrase, "they know you're done," is the key to understanding the shape of this dynamic in the present moment. Your completion of this chapter is not a threat you have issued. It is not a boundary you have loudly declared. It is a frequency you now emit. It is the quiet, unwavering finality of someone who has integrated the lesson, healed the wound, and closed the door from their side with the calm certainty of a decision fully, consciously made. You are not waiting. You are not hoping. You are not keeping a space warm for their eventual return. You have moved your furniture. You have repainted the walls. You have filled the rooms of your life with your own breath, your own laughter, your own peace. And that completeness, that wholeness that exists entirely independent of them is what they are now sensing. It is the frequency that has crossed the distance between you and landed in their awareness like a truth they can no longer outrun. This frequency is what they are reacting to. Not your words, not your actions, not any signal you have deliberately sent. It is the simple, undeniable fact of your wholeness. Without them, to a person who walked away, your wholeness is the ultimate mirror. It reflects back to them the incompleteness they carry. It shows them that you did not need them to be whole, that you were never waiting to be completed by their presence, that your life did not pause when they left. And that revelation, for someone who defined their power by their ability to choose or reject, is profoundly destabilizing. Their power was always an illusion. It was a power granted by your attention, your hope, your willingness to wait. When you withdrew that attention, that hope, that willingness, their power evaporated. What remains is not power. What remains is the quiet, growing weight of a choice they can no longer justify to themselves. Your peace becomes their discomfort. Your silence becomes their loudest alarm. Your moving on becomes the evidence that they were never as essential to your story as they believed themselves to be. Now, here is where discernment becomes essential. This is not about revenge. Revenge would require you to still be emotionally invested in their suffering, to derive satisfaction from their regret, to need their pain as proof of your worth. You are not there. You have moved past that. Your emotional investment has been withdrawn, redirected into your own life, your own growth, your own peace. That is precisely why their regret has space to grow. Your absence is not a punishment you are administering. It is simply the natural state of your attention no longer being directed toward them. And in that vacuum, they are left alone with the consequences of their own choice. The silence they chose is now filled with the echo of their own mistake. This is not cruelty. This is accountability. The universe has a way of allowing people to feel the full weight of the doors they close, not as punishment, but as education. They are, perhaps for the first time, feeling the true cost of their own decision. And that feeling is what we call regret. It is not your job to relieve them of it. It is not your role to offer comfort or understanding or a second chance. Your role, if you have one at all, is to remain exactly where you are, grounded in your own life, anchored in your own worth, unshaken by the tremors of their internal earthquake. There is a profound freedom in being done. It is not the freedom of anger or bitterness. Those are chains, just as heavy as hope. The freedom of being done is the freedom of completion. It is the feeling of closing a book not because the story was bad, but because you have read it to its natural end. You know how it ends. You know the characters. You know the lessons. There is nothing left to discover. The book can stay on the shelf, or it can be given away, or it can be set aside. But you are not going to read it again. You are not going to flip back to the middle chapters hoping for a different ending. The ending is written. It has been written for some time. And in accepting that ending, in finally closing the cover, you have freed up the space in your hands to hold something new, something that does not require you to hope for a different outcome, something that arrives already whole. This is why their regret, while real, is not your concern. It is the residue of a story that has ended. It is the echo of a door that was closed. It may be loud in their ears, but in your life, it is background noise at most. Your attention is elsewhere. Your heart is elsewhere. Your future is elsewhere. And that is exactly where it should be. The energy you once poured into wondering, into hoping, into waiting, is now flowing into your own soil. It is watering gardens you planted when they were not looking. It is nourishing relationships that do not require you to prove your worth. It is building a life that does not have a waiting room for people who chose to leave. This is the architecture of someone who has learned the deepest lesson, that your presence is a gift, not a given. And those who return it unopened do not get to keep the receipt forever. Feel into the solidity of your own completion. Breathe into the space that their absence has become. It is no longer a wound. It is a room. And you have furnished this room beautifully with your own peace, your own passions, your own people, your own hard-won wisdom. The walls are painted with the colors you chose. The windows face the direction you want to look. The door is closed, not locked, but closed by your own hand, on your own terms. You are not waiting for anyone to knock. You are not listening for footsteps. You are living in this room, in this house you have built, and it is full. It is full of you. The energy of their regret may brush against the edges of your awareness from time to time. You may feel a sudden memory, a dream, a moment of inexplicable heaviness that passes as quickly as it came. Let it. It is not a summons. It is simply the wind blowing from a direction you no longer need to face. Your gaze is forward. Your life is now. And somewhere behind you, in the landscape of a story that has ended, a soul is sitting with the weight of a choice they can no longer undo. That weight is their teacher. Your peace is your reward. And both in the economy of the spirit are exactly as they should be. The chapter is closed, the book is on the shelf, and you are already deep into the next one, writing a story where you are the main character, the author, and the one who decides who gets to stay. I don't sell futures, I build architects. No predictions, just the raw truth for the tough ones. Stay magic, stay in the now.